and we are halfway through the show, guys. We are moving into album number 4, and this is the first album we're covering this week that represents a repeat of an artist we've done before, and I believe the only repeat artist we're covering this week. Yep. Mm-hmm. And is this Iron Maiden album number 3 for us?
Yes. It is. Yep.
Iron Maiden album number 3.
Yep.
Seventh son of a seventh son.
There you go. Yep. So Seventh Son of a Seventh Son is number 101 in the 1980s on Best Ever Albums, number 10 in 1988, number 679 of all time. It's Iron Maiden's third highest rated album. So yes, John, it was behind 2 other albums that we covered, including 1984's Powerslave and their highest rated album, 1982's Number of the Beast. None of Iron Maiden's albums made it on Rolling Stone's list, so whatever. Yeah. And Iron Maiden is ranked number 88 of overall artist rankings on Best Ever Albums. And I think I go first on this one. So
you do.
Yeah, they do it again. And I gonna try to search for words to differentiate this between the other records, because I don't know if Iron Maiden it would be hard for me to kind of like hear an Iron Maiden song and like try to guess which album it was on, because it's just, this is what they do, it's like
interesting.
I mean, to me, and maybe I haven't obviously listened to enough Iron Maiden to be able to get like, oh, this is the era when they blah blah. Maybe their first couple albums, I know they sound different than when they got Bruce Dickinson on board and started with like Number of the Beast and some of these other albums, but I don't necessarily. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm just saying, it's for me as a kind of a novice Iron Maiden fan, it's hard for me to kind of, differentiate things. But what I can say about this record is it's awesome. And I like, one of the things I like about Iron Maiden is the way that they do the kind of the prog metal, lots of things in different movements. Mm-hmm. A song like Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, which is, nearly 10 minutes long. There's like several different parts that they're weaving out and kind of creating this overall oral tapestry of just a variety of things that all kind of like meld together. They speed it up, they bring it down, they do crazy guitar solos, they do really melodic, harmonies, guitar harmonies, and Infinite Dreams was another song that was kind of like that. That's very, had a couple of different parts and, takes you in directions that surprise you. Like there's that part in Infinite Dreams where they do that dual guitar kind of back and forth together, the melody and the harmonies with that are just like, as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, like that's that's really picking things up here. So it starts with Moonchild, which is a cool, they kind of have this dramatic intro to it, and then they do this like, it's like a synthesized violin kind of intro is what it sounds like, and it just brings you into this, brings you into the Iron Maiden world. So I pretty much liked every song on here. I think that Can I Play With Madness was a little bit of an interesting song, because to me that seemed a little bit veering a little bit out of the Iron Maiden lane and kind of going more into a like more of an arena rock, slightly generic hard rock type song that, and they have like a synthesizer in there that's kind of like a little Bon Jovi-esque. It's a harder than a Bon Jovi song, but they're throwing some elements of a more pop arena rock oriented type song. It's still good. It's not where they shine though. I don't think. And but yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe I would need to listen more to really be able to differentiate between this and like, Number of the Beast or Powerslave or some of the other records that they were doing right around this time. But man, they're just great. They incorporate so many different elements of what I love about music: the complexity, the catchiness, the melodic nature, the edge, the virtuoso, playing, how it can. Even though it's kind of its own, it's in the lane of heavy metal, but it does enough to keep you interested throughout. Even though, a lot of the sounds are kind of in the same lane. I wouldn't call this, I would and would not call this samey. If I'm able to do that, because it's. I don't think they're veering out a whole lot, but man, they're so great that I don't care. I just love everything that they do. So yeah, I absolutely thumbs up on this.
Well, you pointed out what the main difference I heard this time around with them is, and it's the fact that they incorporate a keyboard / synth sound into.
Now,
into
yes, that's true. Yes, that's fair.
That was not here before in the 80s.
That was my really to that. I'm like, really? They didn't hear these keyboards that are all over this
But
album.
okay, yes, you're right. But I also don't think that it's. I don't know. It didn't stand out to me so much. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so different. Like I noticed it, but it also. Yeah, okay, but I don't view it as being that different from what they were, because the core of who they are is still very much the forefront of what I'm hearing here. So maybe that's it.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, that could be a testament to them incorporating it well into their sound too. But, the other big thing is kind of the through line of the album. Clearly, is there's like a fantasy element and I'm guessing this is a concept album.
Oh, Josh, it is a concept album for sure, and I'll tell you all about it.
Okay. Do we have a story and everything? Is there like a character and everything like that?
I'll share a little bit of the concept. So,
yeah. All right. I'm guessing even just by the titles, you can kind of.
I was going to say, you guys didn't get the least bit curious as to what seventh son of a seventh son meant, because this guy did. So,
not really.
Yeah, I was curious. Yeah, but then I forgot. This is I did not like this album as much as their previous efforts. I think because I hold kind of Number of the Beast and those and Peace of Mind and Powerslave kind of in such high esteem. I really like when they not just the guitar work that they have, which still holds up here, but this kind of veers into the proggy territory. It's definitely in kind of like the Rush zone of rock music for me too. I think that in some respects incorporating the keyboard and synth made them sound a little lighter, which is kind of crazy to say, but I don't know. I just feel like the other earlier albums kind of rocked harder for me. I think they are kind of experimenting a bit more here and branching out a bit, but they still have kind of songs that have multiple movements and instrumental breaks but still have the driving guitars and kind of the big percussion. And I don't know, I think I like some of the themes of the earlier songs too. I like when they're commenting on war and kind of Native Americans and their land being taken, and just kind of the way they kind of encapsulate a certain theme or story within a single song. And I think this is more of a branching out because there is a through line, and I think they're trying to tell a story, I guess, through the music. But that didn't work as well for me. So that's kind of, it's a slight step down, I would say. I wasn't as pulled in to this album as some of their other ones. So still thumbs up for me though.
Yeah, I'm with you, Josh. I know Maiden fans really like this album. It stands out for them. I kind of look at this as Maiden leaning in a little bit to like excessive tendencies. It's got a little bit of a press to be, like Matt said, like arena rocky. There's prog rock, as you mentioned. I would also say they were a little bit influenced by the glossier metal that was around. There's like the Van Halen lane of using keyboards, and then there's this where I don't love Iron Maiden with keyboards. It gets a little bit borderline cheesy at times for me, I'd say. I have a couple of songs I really don't like of Iron Maiden's are on here. Most notably, Infinite Dreams is a song I've really not like. Can I Play with Madness is another song I am not a fan of. In the canon, I'd say. There's stuff like The Evil That Men Do that's still pretty great, and I like The Clairvoyant, but they're definitely going for the epic here.
Yep.
And everything's just bigger and brighter and bolder, but part of what draws me to Iron Maiden is just the guitar sound and the an aggressiveness that just is absent at times on this album. And
yeah, I noticed that too. I couldn't put my finger on
and
it.
I wanted a little bit more drive and just like punch you a little. Like I don't need Maiden to be gritty because they're not gritty, and I don't need them to be loud or heavy, right? But I need them to be a little bit more tough, I'd say. And this album wasn't really tough.
Yeah, they feel a little restrained for some reason, or reined in a bit.
Like I know Adrian Smith leaves after this, and I know they were having some creative tensions around this time, and the albums that are after this are kind of considered like the nadir for Iron Maiden over time. And they lean, I think, even more into some of the tendencies that I see here, where they go full on, like over the top, right, thematic. But yeah, the concept here is that like the seventh son of a seventh son was like this folk tale that they would have special powers, right, and they could be good or evil, right, and that's kind of the theme here, right? So like the whole album is basically these tales of the seventh son of a seventh son, and him exploring these powers. That's basically the theme of this. That's what, so we get like the clairvoyant and the prophecy and the evil that men do, right? And can I play with madness? They're all sort of concepts. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's evil, and you're left to sort of wrestle with, in this case, was the seventh son of the seventh son good or evil? That's the theme. It accomplishes it in its own way, but I think storylines and metal albums aren't always what brings me to the dance, I'd say, in terms of that. And that's, where you talk about Rush, that's a little bit of, what they tried to do too. And sometimes it worked, and sometimes it's like, you guys have read a little bit too much Ayn Rand. In this case, it's like you've read maybe a little bit too much folklore. With Black Sabbath, it was like Aleister Crowley, like it's kind of like, I don't know if you need to read this much, guys. And I don't know, Matt. Like I know when you were saying like, oh, it's a Maiden album, like what's the difference? I'm like, this one, I absolutely can see why you'd say it on the two other albums, Number of the Beast and Powerslave, because there was a lot of similar and a lot of kick-ass. They almost felt like pieces of a double album, and if you throw in Peace of Mind, it's almost like three of them. But this one does not seem to be of the same set as the other ones. This one definitely is an evolution of their sound, but I wouldn't say it's an evolution in a direction that I would want. And in my opinion, it takes them a little longer to kind of lean back into the classic Maiden sound, I think. And there's a reason why when I go to see Maiden, they play some of these songs, but they don't, for me, they're not the songs that you're waiting to hear. So in the same way that, certainly the two albums that we've covered and a couple even that we didn't cover.
There was definitely bigger
Somewhere
hits
in
on
Time, which people hate. The album before this had like Wasted Years and stuff like that are songs I would want ahead of this. So.
Yeah, I mean, yes, there were definitely bigger bigger hits are on other records. The only one that I knew on here was the title track, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. I see what you guys are saying. I guess for me, I like so much of what they do, and I like if they're going, whether it's more of a straight ahead, harder, more demonic like themed song versus like a more of a prog rock, going kind of like mythical, Lord of the Rings type theme that some of this stuff might be. I don't care. Like I like the melody behind what they do. I like Bruce Dickinson's voice. And I just like a lot of the style that they do. So yes, as you guys are talking about it and the differences, yes, I can notice that. But for me, it's not like I'm going, oh man. I mean, it seems like for you guys, this is a noticeable step down. Whereas for me, I think I don't know. I might have to go back and just, maybe part of it is I would need to listen to them a little bit more back to back, or not even just back to back, but more recently, compare them to each other rather than just rely on my memory from what we covered like 3 months ago or whatever. And maybe that would help me. But just my general overall reaction to their records has been like, yeah, this kicks ass. Like I like, and this didn't really, I didn't really, like I said, the only thing that really stood out a little bit is kind of being off or sounding not really like Maiden to me was Can I Play with Madness, and that seemed like a little bit more of a generic type of song. But other than that, I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a huge hit in England. They loved this album. It didn't break through as much in America, but in England, it was a huge hit.
They're dancing around Stonehenge over there. That's why. And
something like that. Yeah.
I think too that this album contrasts with a lot of the other metal that is now prevalent in the 80s. We've listened to a good number of Metallica albums at this point, and Anthrax and Slayer, and it's just kind of stark in terms of how different this sounds is now in the late 80s versus those albums, which are much harder. And I'm not saying that I don't like Iron Maiden anymore as a result of that. It's just noticeable kind of how metal is branching out, and how this just seems a lighter touch, and I guess, well, the fantasy element has kind of always been there in metal to one extent or another. When we listen to the Dio, that's definitely got some like magic and stuff in it. And the whole Cthulhu thing and Lovecraft that's on about, but I don't know, this just seems like a touch too much of it fantasy wise to me and stuff. So I don't know. I'm just
I mean, it's interesting to me that like that the theme would be like the turnoff if the music is there, and like, I mean, I get it if this is not as I don't know, I don't want to say aggressive, but if this, I don't know, less edgy, or it's a little too safe, or maybe the synthesizers is a sound that's kind of throwing you off, or maybe the Seventh Son of a Seventh Son is too proggy. I guess the themes, like, I don't know if that would matter to me as much. Like, if the song is kicking ass, then, what difference does it make what you're saying? I mean, a lot of metal is either going to be, like you said, it's going to be that mythical, Tolkien-esque, type lyric, or it's going to be about death, right? And that's what Slayer was about, or pain, and like, I mean, I guess you got some protest stuff with, Maiden and Slayer, but the majority of stuff that we hear about is like this pain, or this, or these like stories of these mythical creatures or whatever. But centered around all of it is just, is the heavy, hard nature of aggressive nature of it. And Iron Maiden's going to sit much, much better with me compared to a band like Slayer, because of just the sonic nature of what they're doing. Like, this just speaks to me way more than like Slayer is just like, God, that is hard for me to listen to, and really get connected with. So, this has got melody. And that's going to hook me in every time.
Yeah. It's kind of been retconned as an album that the critics liked, but in its time, a lot of people did not like it, and a lot of their complaints about it were some of the things that Josh and I were saying, that like it's a little too prog rocky, it's a little too pretentious and stuff. And there's one thing, it's like, accused them of having regressed into Genesis style prog rock from the 70s is what somebody knocked us for.
See, right up my alley.
And
Come
now
on.
I feel like with Matt and in the era where people are talking about Steely Dan, you know what I mean, and yacht rock being like, underrated. It's kind of like, people will hear that as, yes, awesome, that sounds great. Whereas like that was considered one of the worst insults you give a metal album back in the day. So
right. So what is this? Is this metal for people who don't like metal? Is it falling in that?
Kerrang album said that this would eventually be hailed alongside such past milestones as Tommy, Dark Side of the Moon, and Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield is what they described. And I think that probably summarizes what was a little bit of what I was hearing on this.
Those are not metal records, so
no. Yes, but if it's kind of, it always has struck me as like, this is the Maiden album, like, if you don't like metal, that you say, I like this album because this has some stuff I like, not like that loud stuff, but
Well, Steve Harris was, I remember, in the research we did on some of those 70s records, he was big into prog, he was Jethro Tull and in Genesis in particular, if I'm not mistaken.
And Adrian Smith apparently left the band because with this one and the one before it, Somewhere in Time, which famously is even more sort of synthy and keyboard driven, he did not like that for their next album. He described it as them going a more street level direction, and that he thought they were headed in the right direction with these two albums. And he felt they needed to keep going forward, but it didn't feel like it. So he agrees with you, Matt, that they should have leaned more into the prog elements.
I just think I think it's I just love. I mean, in those two songs, "Infinite Dreams" and "Seventh Son," they're just. I think it's such a cool way to incorporate, the two different kind of genres together to make its own thing. So, but I get it, right? Like, I mean, if you're a Slayer fan, this is not all metal is created the same, right? And that's why all the different offshoots, the thrash and the death metal and the prog metal and whatnot. So it's like its own genre, but then it branches off just like everything else does. But yeah, for me and my sonic palette, this is the type of metal. This is, these guys in Metallica probably would be my favorite metal artists of all time, I would say, and they don't sound exactly like, but they both have melody. So that is a key component, I guess, for me. And they're both kind of proggy too. Like some of those Metallica songs were kind of proggy as well. So some similarities there, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's a thin line between what's prog and what's metal. You can easily step over or cross over into the other if you go too far.
Even with like Genesis and Genesis, I mean, Rush obviously has some metal elements, but Genesis, like some of the stuff that Steve Hackett was doing, like the hammering on the guitar and stuff, like the finger tapping on that. I mean, that's kind of its own early elements of metal, the style of play for some of the guitar parts that he did. But they're not a metal band, but there were some elements of it incorporated in some of their songs.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. So I think Matt gives it a thumbs up for sure. Josh, would you say it sounded like a thumbs in the middle for you?
Yep. Yeah, thumbs in the middle.
And I give this one a slight thumbs down, I think, in terms of my preferences.
John, would you say
if you'd said to me 10 years ago that I would be giving an Iron Maiden album
I know, right?
down, you guys would be giving a thumbs up. It's kind of remarkable. So
this is ranked third on best ever albums. So that's definitely not. You would probably say Peace of Mind.
I can think of 6 Iron Maiden albums I like better than this album off the top of my head. I like both of the 2 albums pre-Bruce Dickinson, Killers and the Self-Titled, better than this. I like Peace of Mind, Powerslave, and Number of the Beast better than this. And I like the comeback album in the 90s when Adrian Smith comes back.
Fear of the Dark?
Well, I might like Fear of the Dark better than this. I don't know. Maybe. There's there's an album from like around 2005 that I like.
I like that one
has
too.
the black. It's the black cover.
A Matter of Life and Death.
Matter of Life and Death. There you go. I like that one better than this one.
That's 06. Yeah.
So yeah,
they have 17 albums. So
something for everyone.
So so this is
couple
overrated in
ones.
your book, you would say.
Yeah, I even like. Brave New World was the one I think where Adrian came back. I like that one. A fair amount too. So yeah, there's quite a few. So
I probably need
might
to
be
listen
even
to all
lower
those.
than 6. I think it might be like 8 or 9.
Wow. Okay.
In terms of yeah. But the albums after this, the next 2 are not good. They're very much not good. So you want the next 2 in particular. I remember before I read any critiques of Iron Maiden, right? Like I remember listening to them in order, and I remember going, "Ooh, like is this?" What? It's kind of like, and then you listen to them later, and you're like, "Oh, they kind of got it back." But like, there's a couple where it's a little bit rough. The one in the early '90s.
No Prayer for the Dying.
No Prayer for the Dying is not good. There's like Future Real, I think, is one of them. Is that what's it?
Not seeing that one.
Is it
Fear of the
Future
Dark,
Real or
the X Factor, and Virtual 11.
Future Reel's on Virtual 11. There you go. That one. Yeah, that's hit and miss, I'd say. I think that's the one that has the Klansman, which is a good song. But there's always a couple gems. But yeah, anyway, I won't go down that rabbit hole. But
I will say I did like their last 2 records. I thought like Senjutsu from 2021 and The Book of Souls. I thought those were good.
Book of Souls was good, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've always got some pretty good stuff. And like I said, even when they go down, it's not like unlistenable down. It's just that's not as good. So
right, comparatively. Yeah. There you go.